Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around, we are on the Altdorf outskirts playing as the Greenskins against the forces of the Empire. And we are running probably one of the most competitive builds I've ever seen for the Greenskins. And that is the good old Grimgor Deathball. Strategy I kind of bummed off of Slate X. I saw him running it. Or running a strat similar to this one a few times, and I thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. I decided, why the hell not give it a shot myself, see if we can make this magical composition work, because it looks pretty damn competitive. And you guys know me, I'm always on the lookout for the most competitive, most serious strategies out there, and I think this one is definitely one of them. Right off the bat, we've got Grimgor, who's the best. He says so himself. Obviously an amazing lord, he's got huge armor, decent enough HP, very tanky against lord sniping. He's got that 500 weapon strength, most of which is AP. He's going to be cutting down to Gits left and right. And of course, we brought him Gitsnik. We got him fully kitted out. So this is a fully armed to the teeth Grimgor. He's got Gitsnik. He's got Wah. Of course, he's going to be recharging that easily in melee. Stand your ground to keep the Gits in line. And Foe Seeker, because of course, Grimgor, when he sees a fight, he's already running pretty fast. Give him Foe Seeker and he'll run down anything. Now, alongside him, unfortunately, we had to bring one of the sneaky lads, a Night Goblin Shaman. We just needed to squeeze it in there. He's coming in here to provide some special support. We got Night Shroud because I was expecting perhaps some artillery, and I figured, what's a great way to counter artillery? Making yourself unspottable, of course, and so we've got Night Shroud here. We also do have Gorkle Fix-It to reduce enemy speed, prevent them from escaping. So we've got Itchy Nuisance to debuff enemy melee attack, Sneaky Stabbing, of course, to buff our lads, and Sneaky Stealin' just because we had some points left over. Same with the Wand of Jet. Besides that, we do have a single unit of Black Orcs here acting as buddies for Grimgor so he doesn't feel too lonely in the world. He is backed, of course, by a whole bunch of monstrosities. We got 3 units of Trolls here. Very solid leadership when they're in Grimgor's aura here. So, of course, that 53 leadership, pretty monstrous. There's not too many units in the game that can claim to have such potent sort of resistance against leadership bombs. Alongside them, a Giant, of course. This guy has some nasty weapon strength, hits like a truck. That's why you see Giants all the time in competitive play, because they just have that high weapon strength. And obviously that great HP pool, huge selling point, and very high melee attack. Just such a strong unit overall. Alongside them, the Ragnarok Queen, perhaps one of the only seriously competitive units here. She does, of course, have a bonus for Slarge. She's got great AP, Poison, which is going to be great for controlling my opponent, and Maternal Instinct, which does allow her to summon some units of Spider Hatchlings, which is very useful for harassing backlines. Finally, our front line here composed entirely of Squig Herds, because what's better than a bunch of bouncing balls of jagged teeth? And I figured if my opponent brought spears, this could be a little bad, but hey, we're going to try to make them work. We're going to see if we can throw them at some heavy cav or some heavy infantry and chew them to bits. Now, for my opponent's side of things, he has gone with a much more standard comp, and that is why we're going to have the advantage here, because we got the element of surprise on our side. My opponent has brought Boris Todbringer with full kit, I believe. He does have the Hold the Line. He's got he's got the Midland Runefang. He's got the White Cloak of Ulrich, as well as Crush the Weak. So a whole bunch of debuffs, looking to scare off the lads, but with his Griffin and Terror. But of course, the lads will never be scared. Alongside him is a Bright Wizard trying to Lord Snipe, but of course, these are those 9,000 IQ strats. We got Grimgor, and Grimgor is very resistant to fireballs. So no Lord Sniping for my opponent. He also does have Burning Head in case I brought a bunch of cheap trash. And joke's on him, we didn't bring a bunch of cheap trash. We brought only the most elite creme de la creme units that the Greenskin roster can provide. Besides that, he does, of course, have Kindle Flame for that extra damage and Power Stone. For his front line, my opponent surprisingly went pretty heavy. That's not something you see too often. A Warrior Priest mounted on a horse, I believe, is coming in to provide his own mini-Wah with the Hammer of Sigmar. He's also got Shield of Faith, Benediction, and he actually has the Banner of Eternal Flame, which is going to be granting fire damage to all these troops and hurting my trolls a lot worse. One of the poor trolls has already gone down, I believe, here, sniped by that cowardly fireball. But shortly we will protect the lads by casting a Night Shroud. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the Winds of Magic early on. Now, for the rest of my opponent's army, he's gotten some width by adding some Spearmen on the flanks. He does have some crossbows to provide some support. Actually, pretty potent against a lot of our squishy troops here, so I'm sure he just got lucky there. Demi-Griffin Knights with Halberds, providing some nasty anti-large with AP, and some Empire Knights on the flanks to harass my troops. And that is it for the Empire. And Night Shroud is going down we are going to cast it here, probably kind of wasted, but I didn't want to get shot by the crossbows, and my opponent doesn't seem to be in the mood to go spot me with Boris. At this point, you should probably just do a flyover and reveal everything, but he didn't. We are just going to push forward. You can see the greatswords sallying forth, the crossbows also pushing forward, and they are about to meet a tide of angry flesh as the Squig herd are coming in. They are still unspotted. They finally get spotted. You can see just how short that range is. And in they come. Just look at the Squigs diving in there, sending greatswords flying, soaring through the air. Wa is upon them. And these Squig herd are looking for some tasty men clad in Gromriel plate to eat. And they are getting torn to shreds. And so the greatswords, they're definitely not having the best time of it. The burning head here going down, definitely pretty wasted. Squig herder don't really care. And in comes the rest of the Greenskin tide, just plowing straight down the pipe. We are going to detach a single unit of trolls here to try to pin down Boris, keep him in place along with the Ragnarok Queen diving in. Unfortunately, one of the only benefits of Burning Head was that burnt effect, and of course we don't have the best leadership, so that's going to start struggling a little bit. But as long as Y is up, we are crumping some gits and we are running them over. Spears are being pulled from reserve, and they are going to start doing some major damage to our flimsy build, but the greatswords are buckling. Hammer Sigmar is not going to keep them in there forever. Ragnarok Queen diving in, trolls hammering down my foe. And though the fireballs are coming in, these heavily armored troops are going to be pretty damn resistant. Stand your ground is going down, keeping our lads in the fight. And the warrior priest taking a beating. Grimgor whipping out Gitsnik. He's not taking prisoners. He is chopping him down to size. And although this warrior priest is trying to squeak away here, Grimgor is going to have none of that. And I believe he's gonna be chasing him pretty hard. I'm trying to find him. That's Grimgor right there, with Gitsnik whipped out. And of course, Grimgor is going to be recharging that wall very quickly. The Warrior Priest here trying to be clever, but we drop an Itchy Nuisance, debuffing him. And the Demigrove Knight starting to suffer, down to 12 models, getting pincered by trolls. But unfortunately, the trolls are routing, so quite a shock. I expected that 53 leadership to last a bit longer, but unfortunately it just didn't. Fireball still hitting the Ragnarok Queen, but really not delivering. In the meantime, Crossbows getting overwhelmed by summoned Spider Hatchlings. Demiurgers do actually break to terror, so they're going to be routed a little bit. Trolls, though, rallying on the periphery, coming back in, because, of course, trolls always rally. It's one of the great features they've got. And my opponent's Right Wizard here, caught by a Squig herd, and trapped against the trees, and now struggling to escape. So this cowardly fool will definitely suffer a lot of bites, and he's getting chewed on. In the meantime, here in the pits, the Giant and the Ragnarok Queen are kind of the last bastion of hope here, surrounding Grimgor. The Night Goblin Shaman here, wavering. He's used one of Jet, trying to stay in the fight there. Grimgor, though, got Gitsnik out, putting the beat down on Boris, and he is not taking prisoners. Grimgor up to a grand total of 9 kills, which of course is pretty insane. More importantly, though, he's almost killed the Warrior Priest, and he's almost killed Boris, so these big enemy sort of heavy hitters, or important buff tools, are getting routed off. And that is a big win. The Ragnarok Queen, though, wavering, definitely not the best leadership on those spiders, so it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes. So we're going to pull her back here, trying to get her clear of the fight so we can re-engage. Of course, one of the big problems is that all the routing troops add up, and Friends routing, minus 12. That's a big problem with trolls. You start having one troll route, and it snowballs into a lot of trolls routing, and then it even affects your high leadership troops. So the Ragnarok Queen here is suffering, but the Warrior Priest here getting cut down, and he goes down for Sigmar here, screaming some silly Yumi curses. But Grimgor got his beat stick out. He's got Stand Your Ground going down, and Foe Seeker, and he's taking no prisoners. So this is an absolute mosh pit. Giant's using his bad breath to mow down some Empire Spears, getting shot by crossbows. Ragnarok Queen diving in. Trolls stomping all over these poor state troops. And it's just an absolute pell-mell as my troops keep rallying and coming back. And my opponent's lost most of his cap. The Empire Knights are the last sort of bastion here. And now we've got more troops rallying. Another Wa goes down. Spiders and trolls getting in on these crossbows, trying to shut them down because my Giant is starting to take a withering amounts of damage from those crossbows and the spears. Melee defense not quite holding up for him. Crush the Weak, of course, debuffing him as well. And Grimgor here, kind of the last bastion. The Ragnarok Queen does push Boris off a little bit, but mass routes everywhere. The trolls do beat down the Bright Wizard here, catch him, and beat him to bits, but he is able to escape, being mounted on that nippy little Pegasus. And in comes Boris to bludgeon my poor trolls. Another Spiderling summon does come in, but unfortunately it's just routes all around right now for the Green Tide. Even Grimgor is starting to feel the hurt. If we look at his leadership, you start looking at the leadership and you see just how much of an impact it has. Friends routing minus 12. It's still just a brutal debuff. Even Grimgor is starting to struggle. But, you know, the Ragnarok Queen does 3,400 HP. She's coming back here trying to save the trolls. They're an endangered species. She dives in on the Boris and is going to be debuffing him, poisoning him, and taking some bites out of that Griffin. And he's definitely not having the greatest time. The so Demigriffs there do dive in, trying to provide support, but they're down to only 2 models and 100 HP, or 180 HP. And the Arachnar Queen wavering, but sticks around. Fireball whiffs there, and the Demis are actually knocked out. So a big win for the Queen. Sneaky stab in there, gave her a big boost for Boris, and more rallying on the periphery. Our Spider Hatchlings coming back in, Trolls coming back in. Grimgor, of course, he doesn't care. Grimgor took on like all the Skaven forces that Clay Molder could muster single-handedly. He kicked Archeon's teeth in. So what's a few state troops for Grimgor? And he's up to 55 kills here, just hacking and slashing, using that stand your ground to stay in the fight and keep the support in the fight. And it's starting to wear on my opponent's army. Empire Knights here were chasing the Giant to the edge of the field, and so they weren't in position to protect the crossbows. Now the Trolls are in, and the Giant's going to rally on all of 200 HP. The Arachnar Queen nibbling away at these greatswords, chewing them apart. And fireballs keep flying in, but at this point it's just too little too late. Balance of power swinging in favor of the Green Tide. We are overwhelming another Waaagh. Third Waaagh this game going down because Grimgor is just such a Waaagh battery. And that is going to be it. Because at this point Boris trying to do a last ditch sort of attempt here. Deadly Onslaught pop, trying to get in on the Queen. But Spider Hatchlings are in there to prevent him from doing too much. Protect their brood mother there. They get in on Boris. They start biting him down. Queen's going to turn around and chase him off. And that is going to be it. The Men of the Empire are no match for the best. Good old Grimgor here. Really delivering the goods. So, bit of a fun and ridiculous build, of course. Was inspired a good bit by some of the Slate builds I've seen from Slate X. Because he's a great Greenskin player, and he runs these hilarious Beamy builds with Grimgor and Squigs and Trolls. And I figured I want to try that. I want to see how that works. I gotta use the meme magic, and it worked. It was, in this case, my opponent's build perhaps not the most competitive, but because he definitely went for that heavy melee presence, which is usually something you don't want against Greenskins. You usually want to kite and sort of pick them apart with cavalry. But I think even against that, this build could hold up okay, because you got the Trolls, you got the Squigs, you got the Giant and the Ragnarok as an anchor. So it was definitely a bit of a fun and sort of ridiculous engagement. Grimgor surprisingly pulling his weight. He cut down the Warrior Priest because my opponent wasn't paying good enough attention. He definitely laid a few smacks into Boris and chopped up those Demigriffs pretty bad early into the fight. Yeah, he was definitely doing some work and recharging that Waaagh. Got 3 Waaghs off that game, and it was a pretty short engagement. So some brutal stuff there. Ragnar Queen, of course, MVP, just keeping Boris the hell out of the fight was pretty damn important. Blackhawks didn't do as well as I expected. They ended up getting chopped down pretty hard by just the surround and all the pressure from all angles. Trolls also raking in some damage, 40, 62, 38. Definitely some good value on these top tier troops. But yeah, a lot of fun. Now, as I mentioned, not necessarily the most competitive Empire build here. If honestly I was to critique, I'd just say I'd overhaul the whole thing. I don't think it's worth trying to fight the Greenskin front line. I think you're better off just bring a symbolic front line, like say Spears, and maybe like Sigmar Sons, and then just bring a lot of cavalry, and maybe a steam tank or something. That's honestly, in my opinion, a much better combination than trying to run a greatsword mob that's not going to hold up. If your opponent brings Black Orcs, pretty common sight in this match, they're going to crump you. They'll crump you even if they don't have Waaagh. If your opponent brings Big Guns with Waaagh, they will crump you. I'm pretty sure Savage Orc Big Guns just crush greatswords 1v1 with Waaagh. And if your opponent goes cheap, they'll just swarm you. Like this build, you've got Terror from Boris, but it's not enough if there's like a lot of goblins and crap like swarming you. So I just don't think it's very, very necessarily like the most competitive way to go. And obviously against this meme build, it has you end up with Squigs tumbling into the front line. But definitely still a lot of fun. Good game to George here. Was a bit entertaining. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you had fun watching, or hope you had as much fun watching as I had playing this game, because it's just ridiculous. If you have any comments, criticism, questions, don't hesitate to put them down below. I'll respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.